Today I wanted to sit down with you guys and do my ADHD screening test. My psych's office sent it over. It's just like a check sheet. It's like a form. Yeah, I think the purpose of it is for my psychiatrist to determine whether I'm more like the hyperactive type or the inattentive type, and like combined is such it's a cop out, you know. I thought we'll do that together, because otherwise I might not do it. Yeah, and I should probably do it. Alrighty, so this is the ADHD self-report scale, ASRS. Oh wait, that stands for adult self-report scale.
Please answer the questions below, rating yourself on each of the criteria shown using the scale on the right side of the page. As you answer each question, circle the correct number that best describes how you have felt and conducted yourself over the past 6 months. Please give this completed checklist to your healthcare professional to discuss during today's appointment. Never, 0 to very often, 4. So it's never, rarely, sometimes, often, very often.
Okay, let go. How often do you make careless mistakes when you have to work on a boring or difficult project? 4, very often. How often do you have difficulty keeping your attention when you are doing boring or repetitive work? Very often. How often do you have difficulty concentrating what people say to you even when they're speaking to you directly? Often. I'd say I'd only give this a 3 because I do try really hard to focus on what people are saying, but not because anyone's like boring or I'm bored. Well, maybe I am bored, but it's not because I want to be. How often do you have trouble wrapping up the final details of a project once the challenging part has been done? 4. Yeah, I'm really glad I'm on Dex right now, because usually I read faster than I can read aloud. Obviously, most people can. And once I've read the thing, I'm like, I'm too bored to say it out loud. Because I'm quite dosed up this morning. I feel very calm. I feel a strange sense of like docility. How often do you have difficulty getting things in order when you have to do a task that requires organization? That's a hard yes. 4, very often. When you have a task that requires a lot of thought, how often do you avoid or delay getting started? 4, how often do you misplace or have difficulty finding things at home or at work? 3, I have a pretty good system for like my essentials. Like I rarely lose my keys and wallet and phone, but when I do, it is near impossible to find, because there's only one place it could ever be. If it's not in that place, I'm fucked. Yeah. How often are you distracted by activity or noise around you? 3. How often do you have problems remembering appointments or obligations? 3. I think the last 2. I think all the things that are like 3s are things that I've like worked really, really, really hard to counter. And you know, I'm not surprised really, because the only way you make it to like 25 without getting, you know, an ADHD diagnosis is by having extremely good coping mechanisms. Most people, you know, don't make it that far. Like it gets picked up in school or it gets picked up at uni. You know, not usually after you've done 2 degrees and destroyed every ounce of your health. Okay, how often do you fidget or squirm with your hands or feet when you have to sit down for a long time? 4. How often do you leave your seat in meetings or other situations in which you're expected to remain seated? 1. I'm not fucking rude. I see this question come up on a lot of those screening tests for ADHD, which, you know, I understand that some people have that compulsion, but some people have had that compulsion beaten out of them. How often do you feel restless or fidgety? 3. How often do you have difficulty unwinding or relaxing when you have time to yourself? I want to say 4, but over the past 6 months, I'd give it a 3. You know, like, I think, I don't even remember what happened 6 months ago, but I'm trying to make this as general as possible. How often do you feel overly active and compelled to do things like you are driven by a motor? 2. I'll get it in my head that I need to do something, usually late at night, and this is happening when I'm coming down from Dex as well. Usually I'll be like rearranging all my furniture, and then I would just literally put off sleep. I'll just be like, I'm gonna rearrange all my furniture, I need to do it, and then I'll just do it. Like, I have no ability to plan, I have no forethought, I can't see the sequence of steps required to lead to a certain outcome. I just want that outcome, and I cannot for the life of me plan my way there. Like, that part of my brain is missing. I say that rhetorically, but it literally is missing, I think. That's what ADHD is. I would just start moving all my things around, but like with everything still on it. So I like push around bookshelves with all the books still on this. I would just push around with stuff on it. Like all this stuff on top, I wouldn't move it. Like my plants, I'm not gonna move it. Yeah, it's a nightmare, and I'll just get into my head that, oh, I need to do this thing, and then I just will not rest until I've done it. But yeah, it doesn't happen all the time, so I would say it's rarely, which is a 2. Okay. How often do you find yourself talking too much when you are in social situations? 4, very often, all the time. Don't know when to stop, don't know when to shut up. No filter, no social awareness. There is a reason people call ADHD diet autism. When you're in a conversation, how often do you find yourself finishing the sentences of the people you are talking to before they can finish themselves? 3. I think I try not to interrupt, but I definitely interrupt a lot. How often do you have difficulty waiting your turn in situations when turn taking is required? 4. How often do you interrupt others when they are busy? 4. I don't know if that's an anxiety thing. I just feel like other people are always busy and doing something better. And I don't know. I actually can't tell when people are busy, and I can't tell when people find me annoying. So I just always assume that I must be doing that. So I'll just say 4. Because I am very insecure. Oh, okay, so this is a different one. Okay. Okay, so this first one, this adult self-report scale, this ASRS, it's in part 1 and part 2. So I think part 1 was the inattentive part, and then part 2 is the hyperactive. I think I scored pretty high for both of them. More so for the inattentive, but still pretty high for the other one. And then this is the second one in the same document. Yeah, it's a separate one. Jasper Goldberg Adult ADD Screening Examination version 5.
The items below refer to how you have behaved and felt during most of your adult life.
I can't remember most of my adult life.
If you have usually been one way and recently have changed, your response should reflect how you usually have been.
So I guess, I shouldn't say how I feel when I'm on text, which is like obviously none of these things, because it's plugging up that dopamine void in my mind.
Circle on each of the numbers that follows each item using the following scale. 0, not at all. 1, just a little. 2, somewhat. 3, moderately. 4, quite a lot. 5, very much.
At work, I can't even read. I just skip. At home, work or school, I find my mind wandering from tasks that are uninteresting or difficult. 5, very much. I fell into this habit of like doing this thing. I think I used to try a lot harder, and then it got to this point where it was too hard to try. And so before I had my ADHD diagnosis, I would often do something, and then I would recognize in my brain that I couldn't do it anymore, and I'd just put it down and be like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'd be like, I'm bored, I'm not doing this anymore. I find it difficult to read written material unless it is very interesting or very easy. 5. Although sometimes even when it is really easy, I find it really hard as well. Because if it's easy, I don't bother reading it properly and I just gloss over it. And if it's really hard, I think because I have to focus a little more, I kind of get more into it. But it has to be good. So what I usually try to do because I haven't been able to read in ages, but if I get really into a story, especially like specifically fiction, and often with continental philosophers, ashamed to say. So if there's a French dead dude that I really like, what I need to do usually is I'll read aloud the introduction or the first chapter or the prologue or whatever, and reading it aloud forces me to read every single word, because otherwise I'll just look at it, and then that usually helps me get into a book, but then I usually just abandon the book halfway through anyway, like I do everything in my life. Especially in groups, I find it hard to stay focused on what is being said in conversation. 4. Even with one person. Also, even when I'm by myself. I have a quick temper, a short fuse. 4. Quite a lot. I get irritable and get upset by minor annoyances. 5. Very much. I say things without thinking and later regret having said them. 5. I make quick decisions without thinking enough about their possible bad result. 5. I can't imagine the future, so I think I live in a world where I pretend consequences don't exist, except they do. My relationships with people are made difficult by my tendency to talk first and think later. 5. My moods have highs and lows. 5. I have trouble planning in what order to do a series of tasks or activities. 5. I easily become upset. 4. I seem to be thin-skinned and many things upset me. 4. I am almost always on the go. 2. My mind is always on the go, but no. I am more comfortable when moving than when sitting still. 3. Sometimes I really need to move and I'm very jittery. If I am sitting still, I'll fidget and jiggle my leg or something. In conversations, I start to answer questions before the questions have been fully asked. 4, I usually work on more than one project at a time and fail to finish many of them. 5, there is a lot of static or chatter in my head. 5, even when sitting quietly, I am usually moving my hands or feet. 5, in group activities, it is hard for me to wait my turn. 5, my mind gets so cluttered that it is hard for it to function. 5, my thoughts bounce around as if my mind is a pinball machine. Fine. 5, my brain feels as if it is a television set with all the channels going at once. 5, what's that movie? Like Gamer or something? It was like that really bad movie where like you connect your brain and like you play a game and you have like your in-person avatar and you game in this like virtual reality world, and one of the top players, he's like sitting in a beanbag or something in a dark room and he's just got screens everywhere. Like that's my brain at all times. I wish I could like Tony Stark and move around screens or something, but instead I can just microdose meth. I am unable to stop daydreaming. 2, I think my mind wanders, but I wouldn't call it daydreaming. Like, my brain doesn't start forming its own fantasies. My mind wanders a lot. I think about a lot of different things that are not the thing I'm meant to be thinking about or focusing on, but I wouldn't call it daydreaming, so I'll give that only a 2. I am distressed by the disorganized way my brain works. 5. Actually, what my psychiatrist said, she thinks it's very, very, very likely that my depression and anxiety in particular come from undiagnosed ADHD. Really, like if I look back at every single thing that makes me depressed or anxious, yes, it is directly tied with how ADHD has ruined my life and my belief in my ability to live it. That's the screening test. I'm sorry, I feel really like unanimated today. My whole body is really, really sore because I feel like I slept like really tense. Like sometimes I get really anxious, my whole body tenses up while I'm asleep, and then if I get like night terrors or nightmares or something, I think that my body just doesn't relax. You know what, it's fine. I think it's good for me to be tired. I think I hold a lot of my anxiety in my body. I don't know, I always feel like such a disjunct, and I hate Cartesian dualism. I hate the mind-body separation. I hate Edward Cullen for, you know, planting that toxic little seed in my brain as a teenager of mind over matter. Like, I don't like that. Obviously, everything that is happening in my mind is coming from my brain, which is a physical thing with chemicals and biological happenings. Just in a more common sense term, if we just like relax and I stop being such like an asshole-ish art student, I often feel like my body feels really exhausted but my mind can't stop going, so then I can't sleep, and they never really match up in terms of like energy and intensity. And I think that's why I feel so like unhinged and ragged all the time. Today my body is tired, obviously, from not sleeping and from being just like tensed all night, but my brain feels like really kind of flat as well, again probably from lack of sleep. I took 1 tab of Dex this morning. Yeah, I didn't really want to push it because I was like, look, you've had such a shit night's sleep that today, if you need to take it easy, I will let you. I think that's the thing. I think I have it in my head that like I will only take Dex if I'm going to be super productive. I mean, if I'm going to take Dex every day as my treatment plan dictates, then I will be productive every day. Like I've got to be like doing my tax or like fixing my resume or digitizing my paperwork or cleaning the entire bathroom or whatever. But the thing is, you know, I could just take Dex and then like watch a movie and I would really enjoy that, because I think I understand so much better now why I would feel such apprehension whenever any of my friends wanted to watch things with me. And I think a lot of my friendships were based on watching things together, like with both, it's like kind of parallel play. Maybe I do have autism, but like, you know, when you're like talking to each other, or like you're kind of talking to each other but you're like peripherally, but you're mainly focusing on this other third thing. My friends always wanted to like watch things with me, like watch series, watch movies, whatever, and it was such, like I always enjoyed it once I finished watching it, but it was so difficult for me to want to watch anything. And even now, the other day, since we're in lockdown, I had like a movie date with Joyce and we were like watching, I was like saying, oh, I'm really tired, and she said, oh, like, do you still want to watch? And I knew she like really wanted to watch this movie, and she like kind of joked about how like we keep adding movies to our list but we never watch any of them. So I was like, yeah, let's watch this movie. And I was kind of feeling like, oh, I don't know if I can do it. Like I feel like this is really hard. But, you know, I sat down and watched the movie and I sort of let myself get into it. And I still had a bit of Dex in my system, I think. So, you know, I got through it fine. But it was the first time where I really realised, like, wow, the reason I never want to watch things is because I just know it will be such an exertion to focus. And I also know that I get a bit upset when I introduce my friends to something and I really want them to enjoy it. I'm always like looking at them being like, are you into this? Do you love this? Are you obsessed? I feel like I would feel bad if someone really cared about something and shared it with me, and then I seemed like uninterested, or I was bored or not engaged, or I was like fidgeting or like playing with my phone or something. And it's not even because I'm not interested, it's just because I can't, it's not like painful, like it's not like, you know, it's not killing me. Sometimes when I'm trying to, even when I'm saying it out loud to myself or explaining to myself executive dysfunction or things like this, I'm like, it sounds so dumb. This just sounds like you're lazy. This sounds like you're lazy and stupid and you don't want to do it. I don't know how to express it. It's not even like I don't want to do it. It's like I can't. It's like I'm sitting in my brain and, no, it's like I'm a little, what's this? I'm driving a robot. It's like I'm driving a robot, but all the wires have been cut so that I can't communicate with my robot body. Like, I need to do this thing. I'm gonna do this thing. And then I can't do it. It happens to me a lot in the morning. I'll wake up and I'll be like, I need to get out of bed. 3, 2, 1. And I like force myself to sit up. So I'm like, I can't. Like, I also don't understand time. I'm perpetually 2 minutes late for the tram. I don't understand how. I'll wake up 2 hours before I need to get anywhere because I know myself. I'm like, I know I need this time to drag myself there, but it's like the more time I give myself, the more time I have to not do that thing. And it sounds so stupid saying it out loud because it literally just sounds like I'm lazy and I don't respect people's time, but I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. It's just that missing link between me and the things that I want to do. All things aside, however, like, CD I feel, you know, doing this whole dex titration and not knowing what dose I'm meant to be on, at the very least what I do know is that it is having an effect on me. One, when I get the right dose in at the right time, I feel very calm. I'm able to direct my thoughts at whatever I choose. I can focus a lot better. I can sit still. Last week, one of the days that I took it, I needed to get somewhere and I knew the tram was coming in this amount of time and I knew it would take me this amount of time to get there, and I was like 2 minutes early, and it felt huge because so many other times I'll be beating myself up like a minute late for the tram or something, be like, why couldn't you just leave like a minute earlier? Like, why can't you understand that when you need to go, you need to go? Like, why can't you do it? Like, what is wrong with you? Like, I feel like I'm constantly just like want to grab myself by like the neck and like smash my head into an eyeball reader thingy until something unlocks. I feel like I also harbor incredible violence against myself because I am so brutally frustrated by just I think this is something I more need to convince myself of than anyone else. A lot of people just don't think ADHD is real, and maybe I don't even think it's real. And it makes me take myself less seriously, and it makes me beat myself up for things that maybe I actually can't help. And now like I have the diagnosis, and I'm still like thinking, oh, maybe it's still just me. Maybe I'm just like stupid. Like maybe I'm just lazy. Maybe I just deserve this because I did this to myself. It's a hard thing to unlearn, like blaming myself for things. I think because I'm really big on taking responsibility for everything I fucked up in my life. If it can be my fault, it is my fault. It's a journey. It's a process. Glad you're here on it with me. Anyway, my tummy is grumbling. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a lovely day. If there's ever anything you want to see in my life, anything you want me to do, anything you want me to talk about, hit me up, let me know. I love to talk about myself. I love to talk about myself, believe me. Frankly, I'd like to do something fun rather than just wail on my own self-worth and sense of identity. It's a toxic space in this here apartment, being alone during lockdown with nothing but your thoughts to entertain you. I am very lucky in that I usually have many a thought to entertain me. I think the real danger of Dex is like if you focus on the wrong thing. I mean, now that my brain is like not so crazy and not like a hive of bees that have just been attacked by like, I don't know, a porcupine or something. Where was I going with this? I think now that my brain is quiet, I actually have an opportunity to be alone with myself. I don't know how to be alone by myself. Every time I am alone, I need to have background noise or something on because my brain, it never stops, and I just need something to distract me from my own brain. But now that my brain is now that my brain is quiet, I wonder if that improves my chances of doing some proper therapeutic introspection, being able to sort through trauma. I don't know. I think in the meantime it's really helpful to talk it out here, because I think when I say things out loud I realize how dumb they are, or I can stop that pattern of thought. Like I recognize that I'm invalidating myself right now. I recognize that I have so much shame and guilt tied up with the things that I failed to do that it is easier for me to believe it is all my fault than to believe it could possibly be a brain disorder. I'm a very verbal person, obviously. I think in language a lot because it is the only way I can create path of meaning through everything going on in my head. Because the way language works is like, you say a sentence, it matters what words come before other words. It matters what order you put them into. And when you can put your thoughts into a sequence, like that becomes meaningful to you rather than it just being like a jumble of words, which is usually what my brain is. That's my way of slowing down my brain, is like forcing my brain to use the logic of language to make things make sense for me. By the same token, in talking about my feelings in this medium, I'm putting some very amorphous feelings into language, thereby structuring them in a way that I hope is somewhat intelligible to someone else. And if not to anyone else, at least it is to myself. Like, at least more so than it would be if it was just in my brain. The danger I ran into, and I've been called out on this by my last psychologist, is that I over-intellectualize things. I tend to very much distance myself from things. Just because you can talk till the cows come home. I don't know where that phrase even comes from. Like, just because... No, the cows have to come home at the end of the night so they don't get attacked by predators. Because you put them beside a fence and they can be defended better than if they were, roaming out. Because then they could get lost or eaten by sheep or wolves. I grew up in the suburbs. What was I saying? The further I get from when I took my dose, the harder it is to hold on to anything. You can talk as intelligently and as fluently as you want about, any kind of psychological issue, any kind of personal trauma, but the fact is sometimes you just gotta feel it and deal with it, and there's no way that you can talk yourself out of it or talk yourself through it, and that's a hard thing for someone like me to accept. We're all just working on it. I think I said goodbye 5 minutes ago. I'm hungry.